Good morning and welcome to the Red Net Show, where it's always morning, even in the afternoon. I am your host, Jay Edgar, and you guys are in for a treat this time through. I have described the woman on the other side of the screen in 2 words before when she was on the suicide prevention stream, and those 2 words are very, very, very funny. Please welcome everybody, Rachel Nix. Rachel, welcome to the Red Net Show.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I know we were talking a bit before we got started, and this should have been a long time coming, but I met you the same day I met Elaine, and she actually wound up being my permanent co-host for a while on the show here. So the opportunity never came up to really have you on here before, but as we're closing out the year here, and with her being on the hiatus, which I don't know if she's going to be coming back from or not, you are here right now, and we have got probably one of the busiest news cycles to date. I think I have had to run long on every single contemporary this week. This has been absolutely crazy. I don't know how much of it you've seen. I know you said you're not much of a news person here, but I like that aspect of it too, because we get the layperson's perspective on some of the stuff too. So yeah, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm worried that you're hyping me up too much. So I'll do my best to at least make a lot of really sarcastic jokes and comments.
I know that if Fanning winds up being here, I know that he's going to want to have the Bernie impression somewhere coming off of this. I know that because I remember that from the big 24-hour stream before. That was something that he requested right in the live chat.
Oh so, yeah, I remember. I forgot about that. When was that again? Was that over the summer or before?
It was April 17th. It was 2 weeks before my birthday.
All right, happy birthday.
Yeah, $1,800 for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I was really happy with how that turned out. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Well, we have got a lot of news to get to this week as well. A lot of stuff here, a lot of stuff to go over here. Let's actually get the list up here so everybody can, or so I can see what's going on here. Let's actually run the show because I do this every week. The debt ceiling has been raised, but the Build Back Better agenda has been axed, at least for now. So we'll talk about some of the financial aspects of what's going to go on in the country. Maybe get some insight as to how an LP candidate or an LP Congress could do better with this too. But we'll talk just a bit about what the policy was with that and where the government probably intends to go from there. In other financial news, the Biden administration has announced that student loan repayments will resume in February, much to the chagrin of a lot of people who have student loans. So we'll talk just a bit about what happened there and what this means going forward. Big news of the week, the Sixth Circuit has come out and said that the vaccine mandate for Osha is constitutional. I don't believe that's true, but we'll talk a bit about what that means and where we go from there. Plus a little bit of I've got a couple other COVID things, including the LA United School District, which I believe is in your neck of the woods, coming down and saying, hey, no, we can't make a mandate right now because not enough people are participating. And a protest in a cheesecake factory of all places. We'll cover some of that here. The Ukraine conflict continues to boil over, and we'll talk just a bit about some of the progress that's been made in this over the years, especially given the fact that we have warmongers in Congress. And we'll close out the show talking a bit about Nancy Pelosi and her insider trading, how she thinks that this is all very, very good. Plus, I got a little bit of surprise stupidity to end here. You think you know which one it is, so I don't know how much of a surprise it's going to be, but it's definitely going to be a funny one. It's definitely stupid. I can tell you that right off the bat. It is going to be all this more over on the Red Net Show. Thanks everybody for coming by, checking us out live over on YouTube, DLive, Twitch, Twitter, and my Facebook page as well. So thanks everybody who's joining us from all of those platforms there. If you can't catch us live, catch us back on demand over on YouTube and over on BitChute.com. Grab us on the audio platforms, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify. Catch us on all those platforms on the go. You can grab in double speed too. Plenty of ways to catch up with the program here, catch up with the both of us here. You are a newbie to this program, not new to this channel, but new to this program here. But I know I picked on you a little bit because you're higher up in the LP, definitely. But tell the audience just a little bit about yourself.
All right, so I am the Vice Chair of the Libertarian Party of California. I'm also the Vice Chair of the Libertarian Party of Los Angeles County. What that means is that basically there's some states call it board of directors, some call it executive committee. In California, we just have an executive committee, which acts as the board of directors for the Libertarian Party. I'm the vice chair of that. So I assist the chair with whatever tasks she needs help with. If she's unavailable to run a meeting, I run that. I also chair California's bylaws committee, so coming up with all the kind of inter-party legislative stuff, the rules and whatnot. There's the big things I do there. I've been a delegate to our national convention. Was it last year in Orlando, and well, hybrid online and in Orlando. I hope to be attending our next one in Reno. So I'm someone who can talk about. We talked earlier about possible candidacies or stuff like that. So that's all the kind of stuff that I do, and then more specifically in LA, we're also working to. And we can probably talk about this when we get to the subject. Working a lot with ballot initiatives to overturn mandates in LA, helping out a name that some of your viewers may know, Angela McArdle, our LA County Libertarian chair, and a close friend of mine.
I've got to ask this because, I've worked with Elaine extensively over the last year, being in a redder state, more Indiana like that, and, seeing some of the LP things that happen around here in Wisconsin, which is for the most part red in of itself. But how do you be a libertarian in Los Angeles? I can't wrap my head around that with everything that's around you.
Well,
I mean, your core beliefs I understand, but everything around you,
it can be a little depressing at times. It can be a little overwhelming, but that's kind of, I disagree with some people in like the Free State Project, for example, where like, you can't live in LA and be a libertarian, you got to leave. Well, I don't always like I've never really liked the idea of when things get tough, just quit and give up and run away somewhere else. I think it's important that we stick and fight hard in these places where it really does suck to be a libertarian. That's not to say that we don't have, libertarians in LA though. Yeah. Across the entire state, we have the last count I had was just shy of, I think, 240,000 registered libertarians in the state, which is the highest we've ever had. We are the biggest libertarian party in the country, which, we do have a bigger population than everyone else, but still, it's a huge number of people. LA, we actually have libertarian city council people, especially we have one in Redondo Beach. There's other areas that are a little more libertarian leaning. I think that comes from kind of culturally, a lot of the voter demographics in LA are a little more to the right, a little more conservative, but also growing up in California, you're just naturally a little more left leaning. So those, we have a lot of people who have libertarian tendencies. We just are outnumbered by the number of just blue or left wing people, or people who just vote for Democrats because, well, they're going to win anyway. So, why bother voting for anyone else?
Well, yeah, and I got to give a round of applause for, keeping your head above water in that too. It being in what has been, I would say, affectionately referred to as the belly of the beast by a mutual friend, Britt, who did try to stick it out and save it and finally got frustrated and left this past year.
Well, she had her reasons for leaving, and I'm not going to hold her to that personally. I have her address, and I will use it if necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. So, big round of applause for getting that out there, too. Looking back at that, too, I would think that with the gold rush and everything, the get away from the government mindset should still be somewhat in California. I realize that was 150 years ago, but still.
Yeah, well, Ronald Reagan was the governor of California. So we also have Kevin McCarthy. We've got Devin Nunes. We've got all the awful Republicans as well as all the awful Democrats. It's quite a place to live. It's very exciting. It's almost as if both sides are so awful. Both sides of our state are just so awful that it's like, you walk into a room and you'll find somebody to agree with as a libertarian. Yeah.
I have hoped in one day that I'll get down there to visit. Like I say, I won't name the city, especially since Britt used to live there. But I have a cousin and his wife who live around the corner, literally right around the corner from where Britt used to live.
Okay. Yeah,
I found it out when she was on here.
So.
What's that?
Yeah.
I
know where that is. Yeah.
Oh, you know where that is. I was gonna say I didn't know you met my cousin.
All right. So no. On 3, we revealed Britt's address. All right. 1, 2. Just kidding.
I was gonna say Tatooine, just to see what anybody said. All right. Well, we've got
63 Gettysburg Avenue. That was always a fake address I used to put in on school papers.
Well, we've got some news to get to here, so we've got the big stories to get to. But before we do that, I do have a few news stories. Some of these didn't quite fit with other stuff, but I thought they were worth mentioning, and some of them are catch up with some other news stories we've covered in the past here. So, are you ready? You want to get started on this?
Let's do this.
All right. First and foremost, we have a video from our wonderful president right now. Why is Britt trying to get into our room?
I have no idea.
How does Britt? Where did I?
Maybe she heard us talking.
Yeah, but I don't know how she has the address here for this. Well, let's go figure out what's going on with this. This is a welcome thing coming back off of the Redneck Show. I've never seen this happen before. Oh, I guess she's not loading in. So, well, we'll figure out what's happening with there. All right, let's get into the news, though. Starting with one here from our houseplant-in-chief, the president himself, and the little gaffe that he had to go with here. Let's have a listen to what he said.
All kidding aside, of course, President Harris is a proud Howard alum.
One quick more listen off of that.
Of course, President Harris is a proud Howard alum.
President Harris, indeed.
Well, to quote Charlemagne the God, who's the president here?
I did not. No, I did get that one on here. Yeah, that'll be on here in a couple of them coming up here too. But
spoiler alert. Yes, if you haven't seen Spider-Man or the future of this podcast where we get to that video, spoiler alert.
I think everybody watched it over this morning. It's just, I mean, it's one thing to trip over your words, and I do it on Contemporary all the time, especially since it's 7 o'clock in the morning here. I've just woken up, and sometimes my mouth runs faster than my brain. But, I mean, he does this continuously. This is not the first time he's done this.
Right, yeah, and it's like you said, it's okay to do it a few times. I mean, we all remember that, Bush had his gaffes too, but it seems constant all the time from the videos that I've watched, and he's exhausted. It's very confusing all the time. And I'm sure this will be very interesting for the conspiracy theorists out there. We all remember when Michelle Obama started to say Muslim when talking about Barack Obama's faith back in 2008 or 9 or whatever it was. And that never lived that down until he put on a tan suit. So
yeah,
do whatever it takes to move on to the next scandal. But it's happening a lot. I'm legitimately worried for him. I joke, but it's like at a certain point, it's almost not even funny. This guy's the president.
Well, we've got another one from him too, because a lot of people like to come out and spout his racist past here. Well, let's have a listen to what he had to say about entrepreneurs.
The goal I've said is 50% increase in the number of minority contracts going to minority firms by the year 2025. Because, folks, what we learn? We learned there's no difference between a black entrepreneur and a white entrepreneur in success, except the black entrepreneur usually doesn't have a lawyer, usually doesn't have someone who is going to be there, an accountant, to get it all. The goal I've set is 50%.
The black entrepreneur typically doesn't have a lawyer.
I think I know what he means, but that's not how you say that. He's definitely going for the fact that, minority communities don't always have the same, financial privileges or whatever that white entrepreneurs might have, which isn't entirely untrue, but just that's a pretty blanket statement to make. The question is though, like, did they vote for him, and are they actually black? If they didn't vote for him, they're not black. So then they do have lawyers. I was a paralegal for a very brief amount of time, so I mean, I can speak to this.
Well, so. I do. I also have to point out the fact that I believe we just got photobombed here.
Oh, did we?
Miss Salt?
I'm just here to talk about Big Meat.
Well, that is going to be a little bit later on down in the show. I can tell you that. But I'm
very excited for Britt to tell me about Big Meat.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one here.
Big Meat.
Speaking of the teased clip before, Kamala Harris got out in front this time, speaking with Charlemagne the God about who is the president right now. So let's have a listen to what she had to say.
Who's the superhero that's going to speak against Joe Manchin? No. I want to know who's the real president of this country. Is it Joe Biden or Joe Manchin?
I'm sorry. I interrupted. I don't think the vice president can hear you. It's Simone. I'm so sorry, Charlemagne. We have to wrap.
She can hear me.
You can hear me? Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me, Madam Vice President?
So I'm sorry. We got to wrap.
Oh.
So I'm sorry to interrupt.
They're acting like they can't hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh, so who's the
I
real?
can hear you.
So who's the real president of this country? Is it Joe Manchin or Joe Biden, Madam Vice President?
Come on, Charlemagne.
I really-
Come on. It's Joe Biden.
I can't tell
No,
sometimes.
no. It's Joe Biden. And don't start talking like a Republican about asking whether or not he's president.
Do you think Joe Manchin is
And
a problem?
it's Joe Biden, and I'm vice president, and my name is Kamala Harris.
So that was an interesting clip, and I grabbed that one specifically because I know the speech that she gave on that one has the one that's been circulating around social media, but just it's funny to me that Simone Sanders jumped in and tried to save her in the midst of that too.
Yeah. I mean, I used to be a Republican. I'm not still. I have no plans on going back. But if asking people like, hey, are you going to do your job? If that's talking like a Republican, that sounds like a point to Republicans' favor to me. So like.
Yeah. And I mean, Charlemagne, of all that he's done, he is really good at pulling these kinds of answers and these kinds of things out of people. Like, he is really good at getting them to speak their mind rather than their talking point narratives. I got to give him a point for that one.
Yeah, I haven't checked out his show, but I mean, I'm definitely inclined to after this. It seems like he's probably a pretty good interviewer from what I can tell just based on this. If he's not afraid to, question the poster children of the Democratic Party. And
got one here
That
from
was
NBC.
big.
Go ahead. Go ahead,
That was
Red.
big meat energy. That was big meat energy.
Nice. One here from NBC from us here. Judging the Judges, a watchdog group has seen a spike in interest after the Rittenhouse trial. So this article goes on and it talks about a Maryland-based judicial watchdog group that's out there. Their goal is to come out and monitor various trials as they go through because they feel that Rittenhouse got off too softly. And I actually respect what they're trying to say just a little bit here, but I don't want them to make judges go harder on people. I want them to make them to have more Bruce Schroeders with every other criminal case in the country. Because prosecutors get carte blanche, but I wanted to see what your take was on this.
I'm not super familiar with what's going on here for this one. So
I can read a little bit from this here. Michelle Gara signed up to volunteer with Court Watch PG, a Maryland-based organization that trains people to monitor trials to keep judges and prosecutors accountable. Following the proceedings closely, Gara was particularly disturbed with how the judge operated. She said, "It was surreal watching the judge coddle him like that. I've been in court and they don't treat people like that." She went on to say if a high-profile case could play out this way, then what are judges doing when nobody is watching?
Right. Well, I think we've had a lot of pretty good judicial rulings over the last few months. Rittenhouse, Aubrey. I honestly don't know how to actually say his name because I just keep seeing the Dave Chappelle bit. So so yeah, and I worked for a brief amount of time in the legal field. I don't think he was coddling him from what I could follow from the case, but there are judges out there who do bad things, who have bad rulings, who definitely come in with biases. Every state kind of runs their court system a little differently than the other, so it's hard to have one answer for how to reform all of that. But I definitely am a fan of holding them accountable. And good, and a lot of people. I know it's not about the Rittenhouse thing, but for the Jussie Smollett case, there were a lot of people, especially on like Liberty Twitter or whatnot, that wanted him to go to jail as like punitive damages, punitive sentencing kind of thing to detract from that. But no, because then what happens the next time you get somebody who did something that's kind of a victimless crime? I know that his thing was a little different than that, but I don't want to see, over punishments either from these systems who, just on a whim based on their own biases, put people away for years at a time. Because we already get that enough with things like the drug war and whatnot.
Yeah,
I think,
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what they're doing here. And I mean, this one actually hit a little bit different for me. I got confused on the name. I knew the name Bruce Schrader before going into this. I thought that he was the public defender that I had dealt with at the time. But when I was 18, I actually sat in front of Bruce Schrader as a judge. I went back and looked at the documents again. And, he's always been like that for as long as that's been 20 years at this point. Don't let the legal system beat you up. Go out, get a lawyer, make sure that you have all your ducks in a row, and we'll see you in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And then I never really saw him after pretrial because everything got taken out and taken care of out of court finally. But yeah,
which is typically what
it's
typically what they go for, is settling things out of court too. They don't want to get it even to be that far. That's why mandatory arbitration is so common.
Oregon got into the news this week because Oregon their governor has signed a bill suspending math and reading proficiency requirements for high school graduates. Reading just briefly from Fox News, Kate Brown signed a bill last month with little fanfare that drops the requirements that high school students prove proficiency in reading, writing, or math before graduation, the report said. The governor has avoided discussing Senate Bill 744. Her move to sign the bill was not public until recently because her office did not hold a signing ceremony or issue a press release.
I believe the reasoning for this one is that certain communities struggle with reading and math, so which to me just sounds racist. Hey, they can't read, so we're not going to make them read.
And it almost does seem to me like they're trying to keep the education out so that we're not getting a regular educational system where people can come and think for this themselves. It's more of an idea of, hey, let's make good little factory workers to come out here and work in the salt mines.
Yeah, it's just teaching the bare minimums, but apparently not even that. I mean, I'm not good at math, but I still had to take the same algebra class like 4 different times, but I had to take it and I passed it eventually.
Have you seen the meme going around of we have had gone 1 days and they're putting the zero back up from The Simpsons without CNN getting accused of some sort of sexual assault? Yes. New York Post. Former Chris Cuomo producer trained girls as young as 7 in sexual subservience, court documents show. Reading here from New York Post, a veteran CNN producer who worked shoulder to shoulder with ex-anchor Chris Cuomo bragged about luring girls as young as 7 to his home for sexual subservience training and believed a woman is a woman regardless of age, according to court papers released on Monday. And I can't read any more of this without trying to go over to YouTube and go and get my wood chipper sounder. So what's your take on this one?
I was going to say, I'm starting to feel nauseous just listening to you say that. Fire up the chipper. I think we're on the same page on this one.
Yeah.
People make fun of libertarians for our whole age of consent thing. It's never libertarians who are making fun of us for that. It's people who have never actually heard of anything the Libertarian Party stands for. But yeah, definitely in favor of being an adult. And if you're messing around with children, you gonna get chipped.
Yeah, exactly. This whole thing was just disgusting. I read this. Yeah. I read way farther into this when I read this on the morning show, and it's
yeah, and it just goes to show, like, careful what you tweet, because that same guy have a post from like 10 years ago talking about something about sex trafficking children, and then he gets busted for it himself. So it's the people that are always scolding all the others who end up getting caught. That being said, me telling them that they deserve the chipper does not count as scolding them and then me later being caught. I will not ever put myself in that situation.
Yeah, exactly. But the other side of that, I mean, they spent exorbitant amounts of time this week, and I didn't even put it on the stack for this week, but they spent exorbitant amounts of time talking about these stupid text messages between Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows and everything else. Guys, clean your own room first.
Mm-hmm.
Because, yeah, you've got this stuff. Brief on the Kim Potter trial for the week here. BCA agents have reviewed forensic evidence in the Daunte Wright death on the fourth day of the Kim Potter trial. So that's been going on fairly unbeknownst at this point. They had the jury during deliberation will be handling a taser and a gun to make their decisions off of this. I don't know why she even went to trial. I'm not even going to lie. I thought she had pled guilty. I don't know why this is a trial. I don't know why they're doing this, but it is looking like there might be an acquittal, though, off of this. Have you been following any of this at all?
Well, not really, and I think it's barely even been in the news. Like I'm familiar with the very basics of what she did, and it sounds to me like she definitely, if she didn't plead guilty, I think she is. It seemed pretty cut and dry, but it's interesting that this case isn't really getting the news coverage that all the others have, especially because it seems like she's like so clearly in the wrong. You'd think that this would be, front and center of, oh, look, police are finally being held accountable. But, if the story that you want to share is that they're not being held accountable and that everyone's a victim and that cops are all bad, then you wouldn't. But I from what I've read of this one, I kind of like where it's going. It sounds like she's going to get what's coming. So
yeah. Well, and I mean, this isn't like she came out here to try to come out and say, oh, no, I didn't do this. No, there's clear video where she is on the ground crying because she knew that what she had done wasn't what she intended to do. Like right after it, the officer that was on the stand had to go and calm her down because she had no intention on killing that kid. But the negligence is still there, and she is going to, like you said, get what's coming to her.
Yeah. People make mistakes, but you still gotta own up to them, and you gotta pay the price sometimes, even if you make a mistake. So,
speaking on the Smollett trial, as we talked about earlier, one of the jurors came forward this week, according to ABC News. Black juror Smollett's reaction to the news makes no sense, and this is, of course, coming off to the fact that he reportedly put the news on himself, according to all this, but also even when the police came and showed up, he had been sitting there and I mean, response time in downtown Chicago is not a short time. So he sat there with all that time, just sitting there eating a frozen Subway tuna sandwich with a noose around his neck.
Right. Yeah. Nothing about this story made sense from the start. I remember the day it broke because I'm addicted to Twitter. So I remember the half hour, the hour that it broke, that he had been allegedly attacked by white supremacists, saying like, get him, it's that gay guy from Empire. Okay, just two things here. First of all, what white supremacist is watching Empire? Like, I've never seen the show. I have a general idea what it's about because I've seen commercials for it, but I'm pretty sure white supremacists aren't watching movies about the black music industry. Second, the ones who are, they're not only watching it, but they're watching it close enough to be able to identify the LGBT characters in the cast. Really? I think this guy's giving white supremacists a little too much credit. So white supremacists who don't watch the show don't know who the gay characters are, and they're out at 3 a.m. in the middle of, I don't remember what month it was, but I remember it being like winter or spring, one of the colder months in Chicago. I mean, I've lived on the East Coast. I know it gets cold at night in places that aren't Los Angeles. It's just nothing about this made sense. And then, like you're saying, he just sat there and just was like, oh, look at me, I got attacked. Like, really? Nothing about that seemed believable to me from the start.
I remember the night that broke too, because I live only 2 hours away from Chicago, which means the weather here is only usually a little bit colder than what it is in Chicago. It was 7 below for a high that day.
Yeah, and I mean, coming off Lake Michigan too. I mean, it's always it's freezing there. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I never bought it. I am unsurprised the way that trial went. I think pretty much all of America was unsurprised with how that went. So,
all right, let's keep going off of this stuff. Here's another one from my neck of the wood. Waukesha residents feel abandoned after parade terror attack. Media doesn't care about this because it doesn't fit the leftist narrative. Now, coming from Waukesha, I'm actually not surprised by this sentiment and the actual wording that was used in this headline, because I'm pretty positive that actually came from the residents of Waukesha. Waukesha is, especially given its proximity to Milwaukee, a very, very conservative place. But what's your take on the sentiment that was put off in this headline?
That's another one. I'm not super familiar with the story either. So,
well, this was the Waukesha terror attack where the guy drove through the parade.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah, you cut out for a second there. Sorry. Could you repeat your question then?
So what was your take on the fact that, like, with the headline, the media is coming out here and saying, what residents of Waukesha are coming out and saying, hey, we feel kind of abandoned here. You came in here for like a day and then you cut tail and run. What's the deal? What gives?
Yeah, I guess I would kind of say the same as that. Like, I haven't really heard of this since that week it was out. I know Britt had a controversial tweet saying, we're already putting this story in the back burner, already yesterday's news, and it seems like it's becoming that. So
yeah, I mean, we hear about it a little bit more here, but that's just because it's local. Waukesha is only like an hour over there in that direction. So
yeah, it's not in the news over here in LA. So
all right, I got one that's a little bit closer to LA, considering this particular person has a $2 million mansion in the Los Angeles area. Leftist streamer Hassan Piker says Twitch banned him for using the word, and, well, since we're streaming on Twitch, I'm not actually going to say the word, but it's what you eat your cheese on when you have your charcuterie board.
My lap? My tummy?
No, it usually comes in Ritz brand.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, definitely can't say that word on the internet.
Yeah.
I don't want to stir up any controversy. I don't want to get anyone here canceled.
Now, I don't think that he should be banned for this. I think he's already been appealed and overturned on it, but I don't think he should have ever been banned for this, but I don't think anybody should be banned. But that being said, I can still take a small victory lap on this, because he wouldn't be saying the same about this channel. In fact, if he found out that we were talking about him right now, he'd probably have all of his little minions over there, because he is one of those young Turks types, come in here and start mass flagging and mass raiding and all kinds of other mass stuff on our little Twitch channel over here.
Yeah, I need to get a job someday, so I won't say this. I won't say the CRA word. I'm not even going to finish spelling it. I won't do racism the justice of saying that horrible, horrible, awful word. I am a proud saltine American. I'm not.
So we've decided that the stream will be crack-a-lackin'.
Correct. Yes. No, I'm not. I'm actually I'm Hispanic. I don't know why I made that joke.
Elon Musk got in the news this week because, we have this tweet thread up here. Elizabeth Warren first coming up and saying, let's change the rig tax code so the person of the year will actually pay taxes and stop freeloading off everyone else. And then Elon first tweeted out a Fox News article about Elizabeth Warren's lies about being Native American. Then finished off his thread saying, you remind me of when I was a kid and my friend's angry mom just randomly would yell at everyone for no reason. And he finished off with the final nail in the coffin of, please don't call the manager on me, Senator Karen.
Yeah, how do we change the rules where we can get Elon Musk to be the president of the United States? That's what I want to know.
I believe that requires a constitutional amendment.
He's asking the right questions. He's saying the right things. He is paying more than any of us combined are going to be paying in taxes this year. He's having more stolen from him than any of us combined. And this is a great example of, tax the rich. He's one of, if not the richest man in the world. I don't know, they kind of been leapfrogging each other every couple of weeks the last year or so. But 11 billion. That'll fund the government for what, a day, 2 days. That's nothing. That's no amount of money to the U.S. federal government. We're $28 trillion in debt. Who cares about 11 billion? They spend that in a minute, and people get the idea that, if you worked every day from 0 to 2021 and made this much money, you still wouldn't have as much as him. Flip that around. You wouldn't have as much money as the government spends every day. Right. I don't care how much he's getting taxed. The issue is, I do. He should be getting taxed 0. We should all be getting taxed 0. But we need to focus on our spending issues if you're going to call out Elon Musk for paying more than his fair share, to use their words.
Do you think that after Elizabeth Warren saw that tweet, she went out to a riverbank, stood solemnly, and just had one single tear roll down her cheek?
I think she went, I was going to say something that would get us way more trouble than saying the C word would.
That's the only depiction of Native Americans I've ever seen. So
nice.
I'm sure she had a good solemn cry after that, and I'm sure she felt very victimized and went down to her safe space. And
I feel like
thoughts and prayers to Senator Warren.
Everyone over 35 got that joke, so packing it in over here.
Your former senator over there, both of your former senator actually, and now the Vice President of the United States got roundly mocked this week after realizing that she doesn't know how to charge up an electric car. Let's listen to this exchange.
It's plugged in, so is it plugged into just a normal electric socket, right?
Yes, normally it's a 240 volt, but you can go ahead and plug in, and
okay.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we are.
That's it.
And there's no sound or fume.
There is nothing.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's
so
all there is to it.
For all of us who are used to
every morning
filling our tank, you usually can smell it and you can hear it. You can hear the guzzling sound.
Right.
None of that.
None of that.
So how do I know it's actually working?
It is. So typically, once you wave the card, it's actually charging. So.
But how would I know that? Tell me how I would know that.
So typically, excuse me.
Yeah.
So typically, you come in, you wave this card, and then what it would do is it would authenticate.
That was painful to watch.
What I'm getting from that is that she doesn't even charge her own phone. If she doesn't know. How do I know it's working? It's not making any noise. I don't smell any fumes.
Well, normally when something is doing that, the only way she knows it's done is when she has to swallow. So
good night, everybody. All right, we're going there.
We're going there. I got just a couple more to go over here. An Instacart driver saw an elderly couple's thin blue line flag, so she ran their groceries over, police say. This is from Blaine, Minnesota, and apparently this Instacart driver, who, looks like a typical leftoid, I can say that, I've seen the picture, put a note in the wreath that says, what did it say? Denounced law enforcement as police pigs and told the couple to find another slave. Now, what had happened with this is it looked like the elderly man that was at the home told this person, okay, once you get here, call us and let us know so we can help you. We don't want you to get stuck in the driveway. There had apparently been a lot of snow, and they looked out the window and they saw the car rocking back and forth like it was stuck in the snow. But then when they get out there, it appears that, yes, the Instacart driver was running over the groceries. Now, I've also heard that this was been faked and this was a hoax because it looks like they did the tire tracks and then they put the groceries over it. So I don't know which way this goes.
Both sides sound equally crazy. I could see it going either way because, like we talked about just a segment ago, people fake stuff like this because they think it's really easy to get a reaction. On the other hand, there are people out there who are insane enough to do something like run over your groceries for seeing a bumper sticker.
Yeah.
So it's just the times we live in, I guess.
Yeah, and it's
the
it's
internet
really
was a mistake. We should get rid of it.
Thank you, Al Gore.
Yes.
I mean, you look at the picture too.
Instacart orders into a lockbox, and then we can save the whales.
I mean, just to look at this too, I mean, it does look like, yeah, the bag was ripped open and it was set over. I mean, I don't see any tire tracks on any of the actual product. So I could see where they're coming from, but like you said, yeah, I could see somebody getting crazy and doing something like that too. So
yeah, I'm looking at these photos. I would think if they got run over, they would be a little flatter than this. They look just like they're kind of strewn about there.
Yeah.
Cottage cheese or something like that, which would not withstand the weight of a car. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not calling this person a liar. I don't know the details. I wasn't there. I didn't see this, but I have follow-up questions is what I would say.
I have a follow-up question for this one here. Fallen service members to posthumously receive Congressional Gold Medal under new law. So this law relates to the 13 service members who lost their lives during the ISIS attack on the outside of the Afghan airfield in the midst of the evacuation. It does include 12 service members and 1 medical personnel for the military. But my follow-up question to this is, what medal do those who lost their lives after the U.S. decided to drone a U.S. contractor and get the wrong guy?
They get the Congressional Medal of shh. Stop asking questions. And a nice little Christmas bonus from their Pentagon paychecks. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like they're being recognized for this. I wish we had never been in this situation. And I don't just mean the pullout. I mean the whole war. But I mean, thank them for their service. So, yeah, there are plenty of people who have been just treated like collateral damage, who just seem completely insignificant to the people that organize and operate these operations. So,
all right,
it's a valid question.
Last two. A little bit of white pill before we get off of this. Remaining missionaries kidnapped in Haiti by a gang are released. So a few weeks ago, a group of missionaries went down to spread Christianity in Haiti, got kidnapped by the cartels. 17 of them were held hostage for $1 million each to the U.S. government. As of this point, I don't know if they were released with ransom or not, but they have officially been released and they are headed home. So.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I have mixed thoughts on these types of things. Obviously, everyone should be entitled to their own religious beliefs, their own religious freedoms. I also think if you are going into these types of areas where this type of stuff happens, I'm not saying you're asking for it, but it's a possibility of what happens. I would hope that they weren't released with ransoms being paid. It sounds a little neo-conny, but we don't negotiate with terrorists. And I have always kind of liked that idea. I don't want to incentivize kidnapping or whatnot. I'm glad to hear that they are allegedly free and fine. But...
All right, and the last one before we get into talking about the national debt. Well, I guess Florida's going to be a little bit calmer for a little while because they got Florida Man. According to NBC News, Florida Man gets 5 years for assault in Capitol riot, the longest sentence yet. The story surrounds Robert Palmer of Florida, who was caught on camera throwing fire extinguishers at police officers, throwing a metal pole at police officers, throwing rocks at police officers. So you're sensing a pattern here, I'm guessing. He's getting 5 years for
he
this.
was at an insurrection?
What's that?
Like, did he know he was at an insurrection, or was he just like on vacation?
I don't know. I know that he was in tears in the interview and in the court proceedings because he was ashamed of what he did. But
well, while you're in the prison showers, be very careful not to drop the bath salts. I will give that advice to Florida man.
Poor Florida man. But there again, it'll probably be a little bit calmer in Florida for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, the foreseeable 15 minutes of their future.
All right, let's grab a little bit of live chat here, see what we've got going on here, and then we've got to talk a little bit about the national debt here. So let's see what these guys are doing. Wow, there's a lot of people in here today. A lot of live chat.
Wonderful.
Got to get all the way back up to the top. Quest Fanning is here. Highleaf is here with the old half track. Sully Blue is here, one of the people who will be freed from Florida Man at this point. Katie Zed is here. Randy says, way to raise the funny bar to the ceiling. Hope she's up for it. Let's see.
I feel like I've disappointed you, probably.
Sully says, girl, I have so many dad jokes. I got you.
I could dad joke your socks off.
Nephilim Ninja is here. Katie Zed says she'll make the sandwiches. Sully says, oh, Orlando, my neck of the woods. Or palm trees, not woods. I'm sorry. Quest Fanning is a fan of Angela McArdle, apparently. He says Angela's awesome.
She is awesome.
Katie Zed says, I was only asked to show my papers once when I was in LA last week. I was surprised.
I've never been asked, and that's because I don't spend actually most of my time in LA. I'm in Orange County now. Most of my time I've spent in Orange County or like Riverside or Kings counties, more conservative, little freer counties. The only things I even really do in LA is live and sleep and sit around my house doing nothing all day. So nobody's made me wear a mask for that. Nobody's made me show my papers.
Mr. Zed is here. Sully says, I miss Cali. Beautiful state, but people jacked it up.
People suck.
Randy says, I still remember when he referred to himself as O. Biden and the time he talked about how he was running for Senate against the other Joe Biden.
Sorry.
Let's see. Randy says, I'm not a lawyer, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express. Spartan 00 Superior 1 is here. Ron Helton is here. Says Joe is not racist and poor kids are just as smart as white kids.
That's true. They are. Well, it's, on average, I always say some people are stupider than others.
80s Kid is here. Says, did the Covenant Kid just win $275 million from MSNBLMC? Says it's true online. So if it is, that's delicious. Yes, I didn't get that on the stack for the day, but yeah, Nick Sandman just got a massive settlement from MSNBC.
Oh, cool. From the Washington trip a couple years ago, right? That was that guy?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, good to hear it. I would have, obviously he's not, he could be watching this. I attacked him at first because that was a very incriminating, very smug looking photo they'd taken of him. And I had just gotten finished, or at least recently finished my time in the college Republicans, and I knew how shitty some of those people could be. Some of the young Trump people were way more into it than all the others. And I said some bad things about this guy, and I apologized because I was definitely in the wrong, which I'm glad to hear he got this settlement because they did a really good job convincing us that this guy was evil. Yeah. And it was just, it was a terrible misunderstanding on my end, maliciousness on their part, I would say. So, because it sounds like they knew. I processed what information I was given. So,
fully automatic assault smirk.
Yes.
Life to the Max is here, just in time for some gross news, she said. 80s Kid says, all I can say is comply and you won't die. Simple. I will not comply.
Yeah, except for the, comply and you won't die, except for the times that you comply and then get shot anyway or arrested, because that happens all the time.
For the Glory of Christ has joined us over on the D-Live side. Says truth usually wins. Quest Fanning says all cops are livery drivers. That's what ACAB means, right? Sully says, yeah, bump that guy. He was purposely trying to kill people. Hang the imp. People are using the words that we can't use because of Hassan Piker over in the live chat.
Finally got the chat to load.
Randy says, imagine a career senator claiming that he's the freeloader. Spartan says that Indian crying commercial is actually an Italian actor.
So is this one.
Nice. Sully says, talking about Kamala Harris, she is so unlikable. Jesus.
She's the worst.
She's
behind LA City Councilwoman Nuri Martinez. She is my least favorite person in politics. And that's going back from before she was even California senator, when she was the DA out in San Francisco. She had so many people arrested for things that she laughs at in interviews. And everyone talks about her stance on marijuana, wildly hypocritical. There's people still sitting in prison because she had them arrested, and not just had them arrested, but falsified evidence and hid evidence, withheld evidence from trials because they didn't want to damage her prosecutor record. That to me is just like pretty much straight up evil. If you're sending people to prison because you don't want your reputation to be tarnished, you're ruining actual people's lives. Another thing that she did was in San Francisco, they passed legislation saying that if your kid is truant from school, if he misses school, the parents are going to be punished for that. Guess who are the people who have kids miss school without notes? It's usually not affluent white people. So what ended up happening is that she had a lot of Black or African-American Hispanic parents sent to jail because their kids were missing school because, for whatever reason, there are troubles at home. You can't always get your kids to school. Things happen, life happens. And then, it's like, all right, well, you're going to go to jail over this. And rich white parents were like, oh yeah, I'm going to forge a note from a doctor and you're probably going to believe it. That's why my kid's not at school. They got off mostly scot-free. And yeah, she's just the worst. She really is.
All right. Just a couple more here. Randy says his name was Robert Palmer. His name was Robert Palmer. His name was Robert Palmer. Say his name. Quest Fanning gave appreciation to your impressions. Quest Fanning says, Orange, you going to ask for my papers? And then he says, Simon says, in a Las Vegas hotel hall. We're not going to go down that conspiracy theory right now. I know what he's talking about. And that's where we'll circle back for the rest of this after this. But we got to talk about the finance of this country right now. And I do want to get a sort of a libertarian take on this too. But I want to start with the facts of what's going on here. Let me actually change the view here in case our friend Britt wants to weigh in on all this too. But this week, a couple things have happened in finance, especially over the weekend here. But going back, there was a big debate and a big debacle this week over what to do about the debt ceiling and where that is going to go. So Mitch McConnell this week eliminated a hurdle for Democrats to be able to raise the debt ceiling by themselves with a law that passed the House and Senate and had 63 senators on board. There was a temporary filibuster removal for the debt ceiling and the debt ceiling only, leading to Democrats to propose a $3.8 trillion increase into the national debt, bringing us over $30 trillion, set to possibly run out deep towards the end of 2022, around election season, which means that we are going over $30 trillion in debt. So going back off to this.
Cue the graphics and the confetti. Yay.
Well, if you guys have any questions on the process, I went over this a lot over the morning show here. But, first, what's your thought on the $30 trillion in debt?
Well, unsurprisingly, I think it's bad. We get to it. No one seems to care about this anymore. And this is when I was reading over all the debates and whatnot that's been going on over this issue, it's all from Republicans who suddenly give a crap about the financial state of our country now, which is interesting because for the last 4 years, they could not seemingly have cared less about the financial state of our country. We racked up, what was it, another $7 trillion in debt under the Trump years, and that was going to be the case even if there wasn't issues with the pandemic and all that spending that was happening. So it's just I have a hard time buying that any of them are actually concerned or that any of them care that we're going over 30 trillion. I'm not a financial person. I minored in economics in college, but I haven't done anything with it. Eventually, we have to pay all this stuff back, and unless we're willing to make some huge cuts in spending and in every aspect, we're gonna, shit's gonna hit the fan at some point.
Well, that was one of my big problems too with this, especially when we went on and we did the tax cuts before. I said, okay, when's the spending cut coming? I appreciate the tax cuts. I enjoyed getting $50 extra every week from my job. I thought that was pretty fucking cool. Okay, when does the spending cut happen? I waited for that for 4 years, 3 years, because it took almost a year to get everything through Congress and everything to go there. But yeah, I waited for that, and that was the big concern that I had was, are we going to have a spending cut to go with this? And we never did.
Well, we can't, because what happens is that we propose temporary programs that are going to cost a certain amount, but don't worry, because these programs are only going to be temporary. And then, by the time when it comes time to end the programs, oh, well, we can't cancel that now because now people are counting on it. Child support stuff,
child tax credit,
taxation. It's all these issues are always temporary. And then people usually, in my history, from what I can tell, it's usually the left. I've only been around 27 years. So, I mean, I'm sure it goes both ways. I make fun of Republicans too, but it's, now we have these programs. We can't get rid of them because people depend on them. So we need to just keep racking up the spending. Like we said in the beginning of the show, $11 billion go through that in a matter of hours at this point for things that are just never going to stop. It's worrying.
And I will push back a little bit on, where you said that we would have had hit that $7 trillion under Trump no matter what. I don't think we would have. I knew that the debt was going up under him, but without the pandemic, I would have thought maybe 3 to 4 trillion, not 7 trillion. Not that 3 to 4 trillion is any better. Don't misquote me on saying that. But
well, and I didn't mean to imply we were going to go up by necessarily 7 trillion, but like you're saying, even if it's going up 4 trillion, that's a lot of money. $4 trillion when we were already, I don't even remember what the debt was in 2016, because it could have been 20 trillion, and we all thought that was unheard of, and now we're like, 20 trillion, what a dream. Like, let's get it back down to that.
Well, and that's part of the problem here, and it's the fact of how they try to present this out to the American people too, because I mean, for you and me, we look at this and we look at our bill, because I don't know, occasionally you'll have the emergency where you've got to put like the electric bill on the credit card, but that's a one-time thing, and if you do it more than once, you usually have to go back and reassess what you're doing. But when they sold the debt ceiling, both back in October and now, both times they said, "Oh, we're only raising the debt ceiling to pay our bills." Does this not register as a problem to anybody but me?
I mean, that seems like a problem to me. I was unemployed for almost all of last year and about roughly half of this year. So I've put pretty much everything on a credit card. I don't have to pay rent, but I exhausted my savings paying rent last year. If I was to go to the bank and say, hey, I need you to extend my credit limit by another X $1,000 in order to pay you this bill, I would be ruined financially. I'm already close to being financially ruined just from the pandemic stuff. If I was $30 trillion in debt, you're like, oh, we need to raise it even more. That should be a problem to people. And I think if more people were aware of that, because I think everyone kind of just, oh yeah, we're in debt. But the people who aren't people like us, who just spend all their time going on podcasts and talking about Hayek and economics, they don't care. They think like, oh, well, if they're doing it, they must be good for it. If you were doing it, it would be a terrible idea. It's not different. It's not different for them.
Oh, it's different in that if I was doing it, then I couldn't go back to somebody that, like, I couldn't go back to my boss and say, yeah, so I spent all that money you gave me, so you're going to have to give me more to pay this debt off. And that's what's happening. I actually tried to stay out of this conversation as much as I could, but it does frustrate me every time I see this, because the attitude that Americans should have should be, no, remember that time you already took our money to pay for this? We are done. This is your problem. The people that actually signed the contract, not us, the people that actually decided to do this. So it's on you. The onus is now on every senator, every governor, every politician, because they signed this. This is not my debt. This is not your debt. This is no one in this room's debt. We didn't do this. In fact, we paid what we were supposed to pay according to them, that we don't even feel we actually owe. I don't believe we owe it, because they took the money that they said was going to be used for certain things, did not use it for those things. So now they've stolen from us, and now they've stolen from their debtors also. Not my problem. And I believe the American people should take that attitude. They should largely take that attitude.
Well, I mean,
right, yeah. When we get the things to pay for it, now it's like, oh, I spend $500 on a PlayStation. I put that on a credit card. I'm $500 in debt. You give me $500, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, look at that. I got $500. I'm going to go buy a new 4K TV. Like, no, that's not how this works. That money was for this. But like, once they get it, they forget about all the other things that they've been spending it on and never pay it back.
Yeah, and I mean, I am kind of glad that Britt weighed in on that aspect of things too as we went along with that, because, I mean, I don't know your living situation. I know that I live in a small apartment and I'm single. I don't have anybody else. But I mean, Britt has actually budgeted for a household too, which then that's part of what they're trying to sell to us when they do this kind of thing is, oh, well, we're taking care of the American people. Well, this is somebody on the lower part of the screen who knows how to budget for a household. I mean, we all do, but actually lives it in practice.
What?
He's saying that you're doing good.
Yes.
Keep it up.
Raise those kids. Raise those libertarian kids.
I'm going to move in with Britt and have her pay all my bills.
I'm going to give you vegetable chocolate muffins every day.
That's fine. I've had them. They're really good.
Actually, yeah, I'm down for that too.
You can pay my Mint Mobile bill that I had to go to because I couldn't afford to keep paying a regular phone bill every month.
And if I wind up coming down to Georgia in a couple of weeks, which, fingers crossed, it looks like it's going to be happening, I do want to try one of those vegetable chocolate muffins. That sounds like really interesting. No? No vegetable chocolate muffins?
No.
No, you just got me hooked. So,
always leave him wanting more, Britt. Always leave him wanting more.
But anyway, yeah, that's where we're coming into on the debt ceiling, and there's more coming on financially that goes along with that too. But it's just the fact that we have to put that money down. $30 trillion has to be organized by people who said that Donald Trump was evil because he was going to get us into that kind of debt.
Yeah, it's like what I said in the beginning of this segment. Whether or not you care about the financial state of our country just depends on who the president is. You know, when Trump was president, all of a sudden spending money was awful. If you're a Democrat, it was necessary if you're a Republican. Now that Biden's in charge, now that Joe Manchin is in charge, which Charlemagne, now that Joe Manchin and President Harris are in charge, you know, it's spending money is bad if you're a Republican and it's good if you're a Democrat. And it's just, as a libertarian who's just never happy. And that also is, you know, you asked me in the beginning, what's it like being a libertarian in California? I'm never happy ever. So it's like, what's the difference? I'm not happy watching TV. I'm not happy walking down the street. I'm basically I'm not happy. And you got to learn to cope with that. That's why libertarians just read and do cringy comedy stuff all the time. Yeah. I have a set that'll make Dave Chappelle look like Tig Notaro. That's how we cope.
Going on in the financial aspect, for people who are against big government spending, Joe Manchin just did give us a fairly large Christmas present. I know that, well, Joe Biden was surprised. On Sunday, Joe Manchin came out and said, absolutely not. There is no way that he would vote for the Build Back Better agenda. On a review, the Build Back agenda started off as $6 trillion, pared down to $4.2 trillion, pared down to $3.5 trillion, pared down to $1.7 trillion spending bill that will focus on climate change, social programs, childcare, universal pre-K, and community college, among lots of other pork barrel things here. Which I would say that would be cause for somewhat of a celebration that this is not going to go through. Now we've got to go fix everything else.
Right. I do get the sense that we're still going to end up seeing just a revised plan, mainly along the more social aspects like the child credit and those programs. They'll find a way to get those through regardless. This is a temporary stay, minor victory for us. From what I can tell from the administration is that it doesn't seem as if they particularly care all that much about the climate change, community college, student loan payments stuff themselves. So I wouldn't be surprised if that stuff kind of just falls off the next version of whatever it is that they're going to propose. But I'm happy to see that it's not going to pass. I'm not surprised given that given his constituency, it's coal country. So, it's always an interesting, it's always the senators from those types of states that are getting kind of they're flip-flopping on the party lines there. So I wasn't really surprised when I heard that he was wavering, that he ended up saying, no, I'm not going to go ahead and do this. So.
Well, they've been right up his ass about that too, as much as you can possibly get. And, I've noticed around Twitter that we all know what kind of car Joe Manchin drives because it's a really expensive one. They love to point that out. Yeah. Never mind the $50,000 Tesla that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the Twitch, just bought.
I like that colleagues are saying that Joe Manchin privately said that he didn't like the child tax credit because he thought poor parents were going to spend it on drugs.
Yeah, I caught that today. I didn't put that up in the stack either.
As if that actually happened. And two, why did they wait on it? Like, if it was so horrific, why were you letting them say it until today? And three, if I was a poor parent, I really don't understand what would be more important than having drugs. Because being poor and having kids, they'd be so fucking high all the time.
As a poor person, I support buying drugs. I'm not saying I do it myself. I don't. Usually they're just given to me. I'm like the hot chick at the bar, except I'm a libertarian politician. People just give me drugs. I do drugs all the time. I did heroin this morning. I did a nice line of cocaine with my razor blade. It's how I get through the day, really.
It's your privilege speaking. Yeah. As a mother, I have to get high after my kids go to bed, when there's a babysitter on weekend. I responsibly do drugs. So I'm offended because obviously some of this money is going to go for babysitters to watch the kids while parents are doing the drugs, because who wants to be high around a bunch of kids? That's the fucking worst.
And what better way to pay your babysitter than in drugs? Because if you give babysitters money, you know what they're going to do? They're going to take that money and they're going to go off and buy drugs or buy liquor. As somebody who is looking for a job, I feel like I need to make the disclaimer. I don't do heroin. I don't do hard or soft drugs. I am sober. Wasn't always, but I am now. Good for me. But and even and by that I do mean just like regular drinking. I'm not saying I ever had like a serious drug problem. Again, I am looking for jobs right now, so I just want to be very clear that will pass any drug test you give me. I know so much about drugs. I will pass with flying colors. They'll be circling around my head, and I'll be pointing them out, and you won't see them, but they'll be there.
I want to go back on the child tax credit. Oh, go ahead, Britt.
I'd like to play a clip of all the times Rachel's been high on my show, before it was mine and Rachel's show. So.
Well, I do want to go back to the child tax credit because that's a big part of the Build Back Better agenda, and it's one of the things that's actually been pointed out. It's that and the $35 for insulin. Those are the two things that people keep talking about over this. And, well, with the $35 for insulin, I got pissed when I started hearing about that because, okay, if this is that important to you, make a petition to your local representative and make that a standalone bill if it's that important. It does not have to sit on a $1.7 trillion alternate bill for spending for woke pork barrel bullshit.
So I know a little bit about this situation in passing. And I agree. Go ahead and make it a standalone bill, but also people don't realize that the reason why insulin in this country is so expensive is because other countries don't pay their fair share. Americans pay the cost for research and development of new insulin and new products, where other countries are able to basically shirk that responsibility onto the backs of hardworking Americans so that they can have cheap insulin. And then we pretend that that's not a thing that happens. So what we're essentially doing by making insulin $35 a bottle is lowering it for now. We're going to end up paying a lot more later. The taxpayers are going to end up paying a lot more, or it's going to be stagnant, or what's going to happen is the insulin that you're going to be able to get is not going to be as high quality. So insulin isn't just in a vacuum itself. It also comes with pods, pumps, pens, needles, syringes, other things that you need, blood glucose monitors, all of those things. So insulin may drop. All of these other things, the cost is going to go up. We're going to start seeing a lot of fundraising is going to have to take place to get new research and development, and it's going to end up putting the type 1 and type 2 and other various types of diabetes community behind in technology. So look forward to that, kids.
Well, that's, I mean, even going back onto like the child tax credit on top of it. I had mentioned that as well. We talked about it a little bit in passing off of that, and they're pointing out, hey, we need to get this bill passed because of the child tax credit. And I responded to somebody's tweet on this too. He says, please make the child tax credit stay here because we're using it to pay our electric bill. And all I could think was, if you're using the child tax credit to pay your electric bill, you've got bigger problems.
I saw that. I saw your tweet, and they probably do. We've just gone through 2 years of help. People probably do, and I don't know so much like this child tax deduction. People don't really understand what's happening with it. You're basically taking the money now. Like, if you take this deduction now, you're not getting it next year. And if you end up making a different amount of money, you actually have to pay a lot of that back. So it's not really the child tax. It's not like it's a program where it's like, oh, we're taking taxpayer money and giving it to kids. It's basically they're going off of what you made last year and letting you take a deduction early on the taxes that you're going to have to pay for the next year. So I don't really know that that's like the best the best program to kind of pick because of the way they're doing it. Right. If it was up to me, I'd say that we should all have there should be lots of tax credits. Like, all of the taxes should be credited, and then it should go into all of our bank accounts, and then we should be done with taxes. This just seems like a good start. So we'll just
But who
we'll
would build
just
the
take the
roads?
child tax credit and we'll extend it to all the grown-ups and all the things. And then we don't have taxes anymore. And then we don't have those, then we actually don't have to worry about the tax credits next year because we just won't be taxing people.
Rachel?
Go big.
As far as I know, I don't have kids, so I don't have strong opinions on this.
All right. I promised you guys talking about big meat, which was, I think, what brought written here. And this, of course, refers to inflationary costs that have been rising. And I've got this article from Daily Wire that I wanted to bring up here on this topic because that's basically what
Can
set
I
this
bring
all.
something up, though, about it before we
Go
go
ahead.
into the Daily Wire? Just because I don't know if you've seen, like, the apron of this whole thing. It's just Blue
Right.
Apron. Are we gonna just keep like pushing this as like this is just a standard way that we deal with things in this country?
Yeah,
Just-
I mean, it's you get these people walking around their freezers in these blue aprons, and it's like, I mean, first of all, they all look like if you ordered Elon Musk off of Wish, and then got it mixed up with the delivery for Tim Tebow, and then it's a disaster. I mean, the meat is as big as this guy. The real story is that the left is working so hard to shove big meat down the throats of American families. I think that is wrong. I disagree with that. I disagree with
I mean,
Drag Queen
especially
Story Hour.
I think
all
when
of
we have a Kamala Harris vice presidency, that's what we're gonna get. And we have, I mean, it's basically a tomahawk coming at you every day. How are American yeah, sure it's not the red MAGA hat, but that the maroon big meat hat and the plaid shirt, it clashes with the blue apron.
And it's hypocritical because right before Trump, we had just had 8 years of big meat. And it's just all of a sudden it's, inflation, big meat is rising. I've been told that before. I've been made promises. We all have Tinder accounts. We all know.
Yes, if I had a nickel for every time someone told me all about big meat, it's like I'm so tired of talking about big meat. I spent my whole 20s dealing with big meat and most of my teens. I'm done with it. It's just exhausting at this point. And then for the left to just dredge it up and try and shove it down our throat, like, we get it, Kamala, we get it. I'm just done with it.
They're slapping us in the face with big meat. If I had a nickel for every time big meat was pushed on me, I wouldn't need an OnlyFans. It's the truth. It's America 2021. That's LGBTQ half Hispanic life in America. Dealing with big meat all the time.
That's what I'm saying. LGBT BBQ is really what we need in this country to kind of manage the big meat.
The XYZ7 Batman logo symbol community is just, they're pushing big meat hard. It's getting harder and harder, and I don't see a way. I mean, we're just at the tip of big meat.
Yeah.
I believe at this point I've lost control.
All right.
I mean, that's the problem with big meat. Especially, not to use the CRACKER word, but people like Ed might not be as familiar with big meat as people like some mutual friends of ours. Or
we do.
We talked about Charlemagne the God earlier. I mean, there's a reason. Big meat and Charlemagne the God, are they in bed with each other? I mean, is that big meat in your pocket, or are you just happy to see Joe Manchin be the president?
Even though we can't say it, but like the charcuterie board that you brought up earlier, Ed, that is a perfect example. We need to cut big meat, serve it on a platter.
We need to cut big meat like it's a covenant. We need to make a covenant to cut big meat.
We do, and I don't know how we're gonna.
There's a lot of loose ends on the end of big meat that we just need to get rid of. We can debate that whether it's traumatic or not, to to deal with this aspect of big meat. But it's
a lot to chew on, really. I think what needs to happen is we need to take this big meat problem, chunk it up, throw it in the grinder, see what comes out. And there's, mix the fatty with the meat, see if we could kind of work something out. I just don't know if Americans are up for that kind of grill out type situation.
Well, I would push back a little bit with the idea of chewing up and grinding big meat. To me, that sounds more painful than I think at least 50% of Americans are willing to deal with. Granted, people like me who are okay with getting rid of big meat, that's a personal choice. And I think that's everyone should be willing to make. We shouldn't be forcing that on anyone to make those sort of medical decisions. It's between you and your doctor.
I think, listen, I understand what you're saying. At the same time, if we don't get on track with this, it's literally just the coals are going to go out on the barbecue. What are we supposed to do with the rest of the country? I know that we disagree on this issue, but really there's so much like meat left on the bone at this point that I'm not sure. What do we just throw it to the dog and start over?
I mean, slather it up with peanut butter and you might as well. It's all this extra, all these fancy incentives that make the people out there enjoy big meat more than they should.
I think that the reason why people enjoy big meat is because it's juicy. And once it's in your mouth, if it's cooked to the right temperature, it's great. However, there does come a time when there's just too much meat just shoved down shoved down the throats of Americans, metaphorically.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay, and a lot of people don't understand this. It's okay to ask for smaller meat. Inflation, we can talk. Some people want to say inflation is good. I am a big fan of less inflation because less inflation is much more manageable. If we make big meat into a smaller industry, it's just we can all enjoy it more. And plus, none of the other meat industries are going to feel quite as inferior or jealous of these big meat conglomerates who are just coming in here and just ruining the very fabric upon which we sit as Americans.
I agree with you to a point, but when does it become the quality like a prime USDA choice meat or a hot dog factory? Like, is America becoming this Oscar Mayer hot dog factory? Is that what we're doing? We're just pumping out wieners.
That is a choice between you and your doctor and your therapist and your own personal self-identification.
Yeah. I mean, again, big meat is literally the reason why nobody knows how to run an electric car in this company, in this whole country. Yeah. It's true.
Well, on that note, should we listen to the red-haired bobblehead on that note? Because that'll make this even more
smaller
intelligent
meat
at this
corporations
point.
that only get 73% as much inflation as big meat. Big meat is holding down. They have a glass ceiling over the coin purse industry. It's awful.
But then when independent meat tries to get in, it's just in and out and in and out over and over. And it's almost like it can't even make a dent. The American people don't even feel it. Big meat is just when it's shoved right in so much, and that's what Americans get used to. When these independent meats come in, it's almost like, does it even matter? Can you even tell? Like, is it about the size of the meat or how it's grilled? I don't know. I mean, we go back and forth with this so much, and I'm really at a loss. It almost feels like, do we include like all the pork that say is in this Build Back Better bill? Is pork now part of the meat?
I believe Ed has a clip for us on private browser.
Yes, I do. All right, so let's listen to why we even got into this conversation in the first place. Let's have a listen.
Go ahead. there are several progressive groups and lawmakers who are increasingly vocalizing the idea that high inflation, is being driven by corporate greed, including companies with high profits, some of whom have met at the White House with the president in recent months. Does the president endorse that idea? Does he think that corporate greed is the big driver of inflation right now?
Well, I think that the president thinks the way people across the country, American families, digest inflation is by price increases. And if you look at industry to industry, it's a little different. So, for example, the president, the Secretary of Agriculture have both spoken to what we've seen as the greed of meat conglomerates. That is an area where people go to the grocery store and they're trying to buy a pound of meat, 2 pounds of meat, 10 pounds of meat. The prices are higher. That is, in his view, and the view of our Secretary of Agriculture, because of, you could call it corporate greed, sure. You could call it jacking up prices during a pandemic. There are other areas where we've seen increases because of supply chain issues, and we're seeing those increases around the world as it relates to gas prices, oil supply, and things along those lines. So I would say there's some areas where we have seen corporations profit from the pandemic, and certainly the president would agree with that component. I don't know the full context of all of their remarks.
Conglomerate meat companies, big meat.
I mean, she touched on, she said you could call it price gouging or you could call it corporate greed. You could call it that. You would be wrong. It's interesting how just all of a sudden corporations become greedy. Now, from my understanding is that corporations have always been greedy and that capitalism has always been evil, and that every price is just arbitrary, greediness. But it's interesting that all of a sudden now, when there are, and she touched upon it, there are supply chain issues, and those are all real things. People got laid off from their meatpacking jobs. Their agricultural industries were shut down for long periods of time last year. And that's all starting to catch up to us. But just this denial that their own issues that they've not, sometimes caused, not in every instance, but they've played a part in, and all of a sudden it's convenient to call it greed because it creates a boogeyman. But I think people are smart enough to realize that that's not the case.
Yeah. And that's kind of when we bring in the conglomerates that go along with that too. That's where the big meat joke came from. And I know that Stephen Miller came out with the tweet that said big meat has to be taken down. And what I thought at the start of the show was going to be the funniest meme of all this was friend of the show Paul, the hairy-chested libertarian, posing the question: can we as a group beat big meat?
If I had a nickel, then yeah, I would be glad to take part in beating big meat. I'll do my part for the team. I'm not saying I'm not a fan of big meat, but there are definitely, and there are problems with large industries, and it's not just agricultural, and this is in any whether it's tech or banking or whatever you want to say. There are a lot of large corporations that are kind of in bed with the government to get special treatment that do harm supply chain and price issues for smaller farming industries. I said earlier, I spend a lot of time in Kings County and up near Fresno, Sacramento, between that area of California where all the agriculture is. It's a lot of massive corporations. You drive by, Kraft and Halos, the tangerine oranges, whatever. But it's yeah.
Where
I don't buy it.
Oranges are meat now? Is that in that including tangerines?
Is that what Beyond is?
I
think so.
We beat the meat to death. Did you guys notice, though, on a serious note before I leave, that she stopped just short of calling the American consumers the greedy ones?
Just short.
It was just short of the next big meat press conference is going to be about American consumers and what they bought during the pandemic and how we need to cut back on meat. And you can already see it coming because Joe Biden was trying to hawk tofu at Thanksgiving. But she stopped just short of that. And I know we were having fun with it a little bit, but it's a big shift or it's a big shift, but it's coming in this like slow wave where it always does. Like, it's not our fault. It's not inflation. It's your fault, the consumer, the citizen of the country. Like, you did this. So it's coming. That's my prediction.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah, I don't remember the original. I don't remember the exact quote, but there was something a couple of weeks ago saying like, "Oh, well, the American people are just going to have to get used to having less. That's just the reality, and that's stop being greedy and expecting to get everything you need." One of my favorite things that I get from Vons, if you don't know Vons, it's a Safeway company. They have grocery stores, at least on the West Coast. I know it's not like a nationwide thing. They got like these chicken nugget, little ready-made. They're not hot, but they're cooked. It was my favorite dinner to get. They used to cost $7.99, probably less than other states. And it would feed me for like 3 days. It costs like $11 now, and this just over the last couple months. It's not greedy for me to be buying like the same amount of chicken that'll feed me for half the week, and it's not like and I'm rationing it pretty well. I don't have the luxury of being able to spend hundreds of dollars every week on groceries like some of these people who call agriculture greedy are doing. I mean, I can't imagine that Joe Biden does his own grocery shopping. I'm sure he isn't feeling the effects of inflation like the rest of us are.
Come on, man. Well, and I mean that's where we're sitting with this, and yeah, it is. They're starting to come out and say, but they're also talking about live in the pod and eat the bug and all the rest of this shit too. And they're also bringing up, and I want to move into before we move on to this topic, the student loan thing that came off of this, because the other thing that happened this week in financial news is that Joe Biden came out and explicitly said that he will not extend the student loan deferment anymore. Payments restart on February 1st. And his progressive base was pissed.
Oh no, you have to pay money that you borrowed. I'm so sorry. This must be really tough for you. I'm so sorry that you are having to deal with this. Okay, yeah, Joe Biden is not always wrong in everything he does. If you're borrowing that much money, you need to pay it back. Yeah, you can take out what's manageable, but I saw this meme earlier, and it's just reiterated a point that I think we're all already familiar with. Let's say a school makes tuition at $200,000. You're like, all right, I can exhaust my parents' savings. I can take out a loan for all this. Costs $200,000. And then the government's like, well, we're going to subsidize some of that. We're going to give you some relief. And schools who charge tuition, they're like, oh, the government's going to give you $50,000. Well, now tuition is $250,000 because you still have all these original means, and you're going to get some financial relief for it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm glad to see that people are going to have to deal with their own financial choices. I'm not saying that they're all irresponsible. Sometimes, if you need that money to get your education, sure. There are also cheaper options you can get, but if you're capable of taking out that type of loan, by all means, it's your right to do that. But I'm glad to see that it's not going to get just fully canceled, because the people that end up paying for it in those instances are the people who didn't do that. I don't have any student loans. I never have had any student loans except for like a $40 online course that I put on my Discover card. That's the only student loan I have. I'm going to expect anyone else to pay for that. And because they're the people that end up paying are the people that have the ability to, and then it ruins the whole tuition structure, because they're just going to keep raising the prices.
Well, and I've been somewhat sympathetic to the student loan cause. I don't want anything to get canceled because, like you said, it's going to fall on the back of taxpayers. And I mean, that's another. What's the last figure that they had? $1.7 trillion if they go back and forgive everything. Oh, well, hey, we just raised the debt ceiling. Throw that on the top of there, too. I have been sympathetic.
That's another $1.7 trillion.
Yeah.
It's a 30th of our debt. Who cares?
I've been sympathetic to the point of just knowing that we need to do something before that bubble pops and it takes the housing and the other entire financial sector with it. But I've never, like, the principal, I would say, would always need to be paid back. I actually made a solo video, I think a little bit over a year ago at this point. No, it was not quite a year ago, because it was right before the election because it was right before I did my endorsement of Trump, which, god damn, I can't believe I did that, but I made a video for that. Before
and
that,
yet I'm still here on your show. I am a forgiving person.
I looked at this. My proposal for student loans pretty much revolved around eliminate the financial penalties for a one-time deal and eliminate the interest. And for the people who have paid it back, give them, as long as we have an income tax in this country, use it to our advantage. Give everybody who paid everything back 10% of their interest over 10 years. They'll use that. They'll spend it on home improvement or child taxes or something stupid, stimulate the economy. Drugs.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's the way that I would do it. It's just a one time. Your penalties are gone. So a lot of them will go out and buy a house and roll their student loans into their mortgage payment. A lot of them will go do that, I promise you.
Mm-hmm.
Especially given the fact that it's people my age, 37, 38, that can't buy homes yet because of some of the things that they did. Just all your penalties gone for a one-time deal.
Yeah.
That would fix a lot of this.
Getting rid of interest, that alone would help a lot of people tremendously. So.
Well, I mean, just as a one-time, like as soon as that one time is over, your interest starts accruing again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even that one time, I mean, if you took out a huge loan, that's a good chunk of money. I don't know, I don't know what the interest rate is, but
it's usually pretty low. It's usually like 3, 4, 5% tops.
Well, I mean, still, 4% of $200,000 is still when you got other bills to pay and a family to feed and rent, it's not nothing. I mean, that's a stimulus check.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what I see off of this. But I know, of course, like Insider had to come out here and trot out somebody who says that, I went back for my master's at 50 and now I'm $163,000 in debt. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm never going to be able to retire. Okay. I'm sorry you can't get a job with that master's degree you got when you were 50 years old.
Yeah.
I don't know what you want me to say. But Mayor Pete, and this will be the last one that I do off this, he got a jab in on this as well. He decided, his husband actually came out here mocking Joe Biden, saying, "No thank you." I want to read this Yahoo News article I have here. Chasten Buttigieg, who recently became a father to newborn twins with the Transportation Secretary, posted a screenshot on Instagram Saturday of a notification that his student loan relief from the COVID-19 pandemic will expire on January 31st of 2022. The note read, "Chasten, your student loan payments restart after January 31st. The notice read, according to the screenshot, "You'll soon receive a bill from your student loan servicer. LOL, no thank you, Merry Christmas next," Chasten captioned in a post.
Yeah, I'm sure that the Buttigieg family is really struggling with their $220,000 a year income from one of the breadwinners. I think Chasten is he's like a part-time teacher or something like that.
I think so. Yeah.
I'm so sorry that you don't have enough money to pay your bills. There are people who have student loans who are making $30,000 a year, and that barely covers, and before tax, and that barely covers the payments. I feel much more sympathetic for their struggles than I do for his.
Well, and they cite the fact that if they go back to the student loans, they can't afford their DC apartment, their 2-bedroom DC apartment.
Maybe they can sell the house in Michigan.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't afford my fancy apartment and my house. Like, okay, I can barely afford the hammock I sleep in. Don't even. The hammock I sleep in ripped and dumped me on the floor, and I just I've been sleeping on a couch because my hammock dumped me on the floor the morning of a job interview. That was a weird day. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear about that.
Yeah, no, it was not my best morning.
All right.
You ever see those videos of like commercial fishing and they just dump all the fish on the deck there? It looked a lot like that. Yeah.
All right, let's grab a little bit of live chat here. Let's see who's still left. It looks like a lot of people dropped off in the middle of the big riff there, which is fine.
Some people just can't handle big meat.
Apparently.
Homophobes, all of you.
Quest says the BBB bill would have cut $600 billion in taxes for billionaires. A run-of-the-mill Democrat talk the talk, but they're hypocrites. At least Bernie is somewhat consistent. Randy says, I had a friend say he liked Bernie because he's been consistent across his time in office. I pointed out how he shows a lack of personal growth, as well as his starting point of being a communist. Seawall is here with another half track. Quest Banning is eating leftover birthday cupcakes and Pinot Noir. Quest says, insulin, the Biden admin, got rid of the rule that was keeping the price down. Britt knows about this. Yeah, I was actually kind of glad that Britt was here for that because we were talking about insulin. I know that hits her personally.
Yeah.
Randy says, dumb people like to point out that insulin hasn't changed since blank, 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 but it has in fact changed. It used to be made using human plasma. Now there's definitely a non-plasma based insulin. Yes. I know a little bit about how that's done. It is done with spores. I don't know enough about it that I could do it, but I do know a little bit of what's going on with that. Quest Banning has numerous laughing emojis here. MK Ultra is here. Says the wheels are off. Let's see. Quest Banning says Joe Biden can't even drive. And then Quest Banning also says drug stimulus check. We will come back to this stuff. I want to get over some of this COVID stuff because this has been interesting. Now, the first one I actually want to touch on with this, because you're the guest here with us, and this is from your neck of the woods. The LA Times comes out and says, LA School Board delays enforcement of student vaccine mandate to fall of 2022. Let's read from this article here. Get this up on the screen for everybody. The LA School Board agreed Tuesday to delay the enforcement of its student COVID-19 vaccine mandate from January 10th to fall of 2022, citing concerns over disrupting learning in the monumental task of transferring tens of thousands of students into independent study. The decision came after interim superintendent Megan K. Riley laid out a plan on Friday to push back the deadline because the district confronted with the reality that about 28,000 students had not complied under the rules would be barred from in-person learning and enrolled into independent study. Basically, what I got out of this is if you don't comply, this is what happens. They just roll it back.
I mean, it sounds like that's the case based on what I'm hearing from that. I don't remember what the percentage was now, but it was something in the mid to high 80% of students who have got their have been vaccinated, which, interesting enough, city of San Francisco is exempt from California's indoor mask mandate because somewhere like 86% of their population is vaccinated. So apparently, if they have that many people, it doesn't apply, and then if the rest of them don't comply, it just doesn't happen. Just fine with me. I'm all about non-compliance for things that you think are bad laws, like this one. Here in Orange County and other places I've been, even places in LA County, you go into a store, and I'm talking since they implemented a full mask mandate for indoor California. People aren't doing it. I've been in Whole Foods, I've been in 7-Elevens, and just other pretty much a handful of other stores, Barnes and Noble. Nobody's doing it. If you see, there's a couple people in there they're the people who always have been. It just takes seeing one person, and then everyone else takes them off too. I saw Spider-Man over the weekend. People didn't have him on there. Like, oh, well, you're eating and drinking. Yeah, I mean, you're not eating popcorn the whole time, but nobody, from what I was looking around, and I was sitting near the back, so I could see a lot of people, nobody had it on. Yeah. California is not quite as doomed as I think everyone assumes that we are.
Yeah.
So.
No, I could definitely see that. And I mean, living in Wisconsin, we don't care here. Every once in a while you see one. There are a couple guys in the gym that do their cardio in a mask. I'm like, how?
Yeah. Well,
I'm barely standing up and full open with everything. And these guys are out here.
I mean, I guess they must be in really good shape if they're able to do that.
Yeah.
Because that's a thing that was before masks. You go to the gym and there'd always be the one guy in the Bane mask who's doing that as like a to train his lungs with, resist. What I don't remember the term, but being able to do like long distance running and managing your oxygen levels and everything. And that was like, if you had a mask on in the gym, it meant you were like the most fit person there, and we're running marathons routinely. So, I mean, if you're able to do that, I would say respect in that aspect. I can barely walk up the stairs without a mask. I can't imagine running with one on.
Trevor Noah, this was an interesting one for me, and especially now we're going on to vaccine mandates and everything. I listened to this a couple times. Trevor Noah is almost there. One of the things that I've been saying from the beginning of this, when they started pushing, cash prizes if you go get your vaccine, you could win a lottery, you could win a truck, stuff like that, is, okay, follow the money. Who's getting rich off of this vaccine? And then Trevor Noah came out with this video. It was a couple weeks ago when this happened. I believe this video dropped on the 2nd. Yeah, the 2nd of December. But I just found out about it last Tuesday. And he's almost there. Let's listen to what the unfunniest person on Comedy Central has to say.
On the one hand, almost all the Omicron cases have been mild so far. But on the other hand, the guy who stands to gain millions of dollars from new vaccines says we need new vaccines. If we don't make a new vaccine, this disease could be with us forever. Sorry, I was thinking of something else. Now look, I'm not saying that the CEO of Moderna is lying. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I don't think he's the most objective source on this topic. I'll wait to hear what neutral experts say about a new vaccine. People like public health officials or the CEO of Johnson & Johnson. I mean, he's got nothing to gain because nobody's going to buy his vaccines either way, so I trust him. I'm
surprised it was only a couple weeks ago, because I remember hearing that and I felt like that was forever ago, but
yeah,
it is getting to be late in December, I guess. I think that's. So I was watching the new South Park yesterday with a friend of mine, and she was saying that she enjoyed it because it was pretty much probably the closest that we were going to get in entertainment to having something that reflects the views of our camps. I think that's probably from a late night. Well, I don't even know if you call him late night. You might. In California, he's on in the middle of the afternoon because time zones. I think as far as like a Comedy Central talk show host, I think that's a pretty like solid response, because he's, it's like what we opened with Charlemagne. It's people are you're pushing back on this narrative where eventually it gets to be so ridiculous where even the people who are on board, it's like, I'm on board, but this is weird and I'm gonna do it, but I'm sus. Like, and not liking big pharma and then those other companies that are just, like meat conglomerates price gouging and just doing all these things. They're like, oh, well, we need to mandate this thing that I sell. How convenient. Yeah. Being against big pharma was super popular on the left until 2 years ago. Not even 2 years ago when Trump announced the vaccines, nobody was like, oh, it's going to kill us all. Like, it haven't even been tested. We can't force this upon people. I'm not taking your Trump vaccine. The same vaccine, people.
Well, that is one thing that I have been adamant about since they started doing the vaccine thing too, is like, remember, what was it, the beginning of November when Family Guy did the PSA about the vaccines? Stewie and Brian went into Peter's body to explain how the vaccine works and everything. They're sitting here touting for these vaccines. I remember in 2005 sitting next to the girl I was engaged to at the time and watching when Brian and Stewie busted Carter for having the cure for cancer and not putting it out there because Big Pharma makes so much more money off treating cancer than curing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't remember. I didn't see the PSA, but I know the episode you're talking about. Yeah, it was that was the belief until it conveniently wasn't.
Yeah,
7 or 8 months ago.
And yeah, that's where I've been. And they keep harping on you too. Well, Biden will sit up there and say, guys, just take the vaccine. It's at no cost to you. Okay, let me see the invoice to what Pfizer is delivering to you for taxpayer funding, because I know the federal government bought all these doses. And a cutting edge technology, they're not giving that shit away.
Yeah. It's you can get it for free. Well, yeah, no, the government already gave him a multi-billion-dollar contract for it. They're making money. This isn't just out of the goodness of their hearts.
And then a no-bid contract on top of it too. So they're probably stepping that up. What is it? $40,000 toilets is the joke about no-bid contracts from the government. And that's what I see. And it was the same thing with Pfizer-Mectin. I said Pfizer-Mectin, not ivermectin, Susan. Don't ban me. I know we can't say the I word, even though I just did.
Well, I mean, it's donkey dewormer, right?
Yep.
Donkey deslugger. There, we avoid all the Facebook fact check keywords there.
But I mean, to go back to that and to go talk about that, I mean, the government went out and bragged, hey, we just bought 25 million doses of the pill treatment for COVID from Pfizer. And it's going to be provided to you for free, so just take it.
Yeah. Well, and if I could just backtrack onto the kind of related to the school mandates or the vaccine mandates, I should mention in LA County, we are sponsoring an initiative to repeal the citywide vaccination mandate, not the county one, just LA City. It's a ballot initiative. We have a committee and everything. It's currently being reviewed by the city, which I know sounds to some people like that would be suspicious, but it's the process you got to do. So we have that on file with them now. Once that gets started, we'll be collecting signatures, raising money to try to have a special election to get these mandates overturned. If I could just plug real quick, medicalfreedomla.com. You can find out information about that and how to donate. I would love for all of you to help us out if you can. In terms of signatures, you do have to live in the city of LA. So like I can't even sign it myself because I don't live in LA. But that is something that not just the Libertarian Party in LA, we're working with a whole bunch of groups. The GOP is helping us out with this. We've got people that you wouldn't even expect. We got Green Party members because they're all about holistic and alternative natural healings. They're just as anti-vax as some other people. I personally am not. I don't consider myself an anti-vaxxer. I'm not against vaccines. I'm against mandates. But we got all sorts of people joining together on this. It's way more popular than I think people expect. So I'm looking forward to us reaching this threshold to try to get this overturned in LA. So we've even got, I'm not allowed to say who, but we've got government departments, city department unions who are like, we support you. We're just, if we say so, we all get fired. So
yeah, I could definitely see that. I did put the link to that in the chat for you guys if you guys wanted to go check that out. I found that while everybody was looking here.
Thank you.
In other COVID memes, I could say here, this one came out, and I thought this was funny. For no other reason did I put this on the stack, other than I thought this was funny. Sugar Tits of Bearing and Sugar Tits fame over on YouTube tweeted out a screenshot of a news article from Australia. It says, fatal in 15 minutes, warning to Aussies as snake and spider numbers surge. And her comment on that was just ... great. But Aleximus Prime, who I followed this morning after I found this tweet, quote tweeted that and said, God has already sent the plagues as punishment. Australia, let your people go.
Well, what I said when Australia has a surge in cases, what is that, like 2 people? Like,
yeah. Well, they have a surge in snake and spider numbers, not cases. So that was where the point is. So this is the first and second plague for the people of Australia.
Hide your firstborns, hide your wives, put your put your lamb's blood above your doors. Eventually, the Exodus variant will pass over us all.
Well, we already skipped the She variant, or the Chi variant, I guess, if we would actually say it in Greek, but it's spelled the way that the president of China spells it.
Well, she is a very common last name in in a specific government department in Beijing. We can't offend all the she's in the world.
Well, this will be the last one for the day here before surprise stupidity, just because I wanted to make sure that we got this out of here. Of course, we've got to skip Ukraine and Nancy Pelosi and her insider trading aspect. But I wanted to make sure that we got this one here. So if everybody's got a quarter, make sure you guys go put it in the Alex Jones was right jar. This last one here I've got from The Blaze that says, tech company develops microchip implanted in the body that stores a COVID-19 vaccine passport so it's always accessible.
Like I said, I am in the process of looking for jobs, so I don't want to say Alex Jones was right. But I think it takes a very special type of person to be like, I'm going to get a microchip in my hand that has my medical information on it. I mean, there's a limit that even people who are like, yes, let's all get the vaccines. Let's mandate this. Let's, and it's the big government people from everything. It's not just on their stance on vaccines. They're in favor of, tax everyone 100%, do government programs for everything. Even those people, I think, are going to be a little concerned about literally being microchipped. I haven't really looked into it, but I know Amazon has this thing now where in certain stores you can just do like payment with your hand or your palm print or whatever. That to me seems just creepy. Maybe I'm just a boomer and like I'm afraid of technology. I mean, back when I was a kid, you used to play video games on floppy disks. I know it was, and nickels only cost a penny, which was true thanks to inflation. But it's this one seems a little too matrixy for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Swedish company that's starting this up. Epicenter has specialized in implanting microchips the size of grains of rice in the body that can act as key cards to open doors, public transportation passes, or be a credit card, Metro reported. According to Digital Cultures researcher Moa Peterson, around 6,000 people in the country so far have a chip inserted in their hands. In their hands, I mean, if they decide to do it in the forehead, I mean, the right in this country got laughed at for saying that the vaccine passport was going to be the mark of the beast. In fact, I had an extensive conversation with one of my philosophical friends who assured me that there was no way that what we were coming out of could be the mark of the beast. And now we're talking about putting a microchip into your right hand or onto your forehead. Like, you guys, if you want us to stop comparing it to Revelation, stop making it like Revelation.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the right got mocked for even the idea that vaccine passports would even be a thing, much less that they'd be that. It was like, we're not even going to have. It's not going to get to that point. Will you ever have to show your papers to get anywhere? Stop being a conspiracy theorist. I mean, I don't know about you. I'm running out of conspiracy theories. They keep being relabeled as news. Like, it's disheartening to hear that 6,000 people have done it, but I mean, people buy Cardi B albums too, so obviously there are people out there who exist who have opinions on things.
All right. I have, in the grand tradition of the Red Ned Show, one last article here that I didn't put on the stack. You say you think you know what it is already, but I didn't put on the stack. That is so stupid that we have to come back and talk about it one more time before we head out of here. This is our surprise stupidity segment for the day. And this comes from my rich heritage of being automotive in nature and living around automotives. So, reading from Fox 32 today, man killed while trying to steal catalytic converters, deputies say.
That's not what I thought it was going to be.
Oh, which did you think it was going to be?
I thought it was going to be how Major League Quidditch is changing their name because J.K. Rowling is problematic.
I have not looked enough into that to know anything about that. No, I found this article.
They're changing the name of Quidditch because J.K. Rowling's a TERF, so that's offensive now. They don't want to be tied to it. I mean, let's just get beyond the fact that there is Major League Quidditch. Like, that alone deserves its own episode.
No, we've got this one here. So let's read here from Fox 32. Monroe, North Carolina. A man was killed after investigators say he was crushed by the very car from which he was trying to cut a catalytic converter. It happened Wednesday in the driveway of a home in the 3900 block of West Unionville, Indian Trail Road near Monroe, North Carolina. Union County Sheriff's deputies were called to the home around 5:45 p.m. after the homeowner found the body of the man under his Toyota Prius. Detectives say the man appeared to be in the middle of cutting off the exhaust pipe to get to the catalytic converter when the jack slipped, bringing the car down on the man and killing him.
Let that be a lesson, kids. Don't steal catalytic converters. I don't even actually know what a catalytic converter is. I know nothing about cars, and I worked as a paralegal in lemon law. I have no idea anything about cars. I know the type of car I own. Every other car is a Honda Civic. It could be a pickup truck, and it's still a Honda Civic. Don't steal or you die. That's the lesson here, kids. And so what we have learned applies to our lives today.
I mean, this guy, he did get Darwin. He made a stupid choice, and he paid the price for it, definitely. Well, the reason this they have value into it is what it does is it catalyzes, it changes the chemical output of the fuel that goes through it. But they do so by using a lot of very high-end precious metals. Platinum and rhodium are both metals that are very, very, very prominent inside the catalytic converter. So they've got some definite worth to them. I know I do a segment into the morning show about scrap metal prices throughout the day, and to bring a small foreign catalytic converter, like the one that would be under that Prius, would net a guy about $185 from most scrap yards.
Well, I hope that was worth $185.
Over $185, this man lost his life. I mean, that's almost as bad as Emmett Brown's loss of life over, what was it, $14?
Of what?
I'm trying to think of the headstone from Back to the Future 3. Because they put what it was on there.
I haven't seen Back to the Future 3. I've seen Back to the Futures 1 and 2. I have not seen the third one.
Oh, I'm surprised, especially being a California person. Because that's Old West California that they did that. How much did Doc Brown lose?
I'm a time travel fan too. I haven't always had time. It wasn't streaming or something. I know the scene where he's, they put the DeLorean on the train, but that's the extent of my knowledge about it.
It doesn't say. It was something ridiculous. It was like $14 or something, but I mean, once you inflate that up to $1985, even then.
I mean, it's still not a whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's all that I have here for the day. So, this was fun. Let's check in with the last of the live chat here and see what it was. Let's see. Katie said has come back. Okay, Quest has asked for your Bernie impression. Right before we circled back out of this, he asked for that. So, we need the Bernie impression.
All right. I have to get into the zone now. It's been a while. The millionaires and billionaires are taking all of the student loan payments and they're using them to fund conspiracy theories to overturn democracy. I live in Vermont. We've got maple syrup up the wazoo. But what we don't have is universal health care. Oh, no. That's... I'm more into doing Trump impressions these days. They're not particularly good, but that's why I enjoy doing them.
Let's hear it.
You want to hear? Okay, so Ed, thank you for having me on the show. I think you... Some of this stuff, some of these questions in the live stream, they were very unfair to me. Very unfair. Some of these questions, you got the happy emojis, the small emojis. What's that about, folks? I don't know. These happy, maybe this is something we need to look into. I don't know. I think the Democrats are being very unfair. Very unfair. They're voting for people who aren't me, folks. I think we need to look into this. We need to stop building all of the things except for walls until we find out what's going on. congratulations to my friend Melania. Sorry, my wife Melania. I've heard she got married. Good for her. That's.
All right.
I didn't prepare these, so.
Quest says they're afraid of exposing the families to how much better homeschooling is versus their crappy public school system.
Homeschool your kids.
Katie Zed says, I'm back. Please start over. All right.
Okay.
Where's
me.
my... Life that a Max came back to says, I could do with a fresh start too. Quest says, do donkeys have big meat or too stringy?
I've been to Tijuana. They seem to be doing fine.
There are plans being made in the live chat. Quest Fanning says, repeal the 19th. What's your take on repeal the 19th?
Which is the 19th again? Is that women's voting?
Women voting, yeah.
I think women should be allowed to vote. Yes. I don't think everyone should be allowed to vote, but I don't think it should be based on gender.
I don't think so either. Quest says, you will eat the bugs, you will live in the pod, you will date the men.
I do two of those things already. So.
Beat Me Up, Mr. Scott has joined us here. I got to give an epic shout out to Beat Me Up, Mr. Scott before you get to your point here, because we found out on Thursday on Contemporary that through adoption, he just found out, and he's 40. We just found out that he has a sister that he never knew about.
He just found out he's 40 and he has a sister. Wow, that's congratulations.
Yeah, I guess his sister got adopted. So yeah, he just found that out, I guess, over this past week. So mazel tov to Beat Me Up, Mr. Scott.
Holiday season, that's a great time to just, meet new family. That's, yeah. What I was going to say before that is that I have eaten bugs. I get that it's like a kind of a dystopian meme, but I've ordered like packets of crickets and grasshoppers off Amazon. I snack on them sometimes. I'm not saying I want to make everyone eat them, but I've done it. I don't mind.
Well, I mean,
they're not as bad as
everyone
expects. Yeah. It's like eating escargot at a French restaurant. Like, yeah, it's snails. In theory, it sounds gross, but if you cook them, they are food. There are other countries, Mexico and China. I know in China, Asia, they do food things that we might consider weird, but they're not weird where those people live. And there's regions in Mexico where eating grasshoppers is a big thing. And as somebody with Hispanic descent or Hispanic origins, I don't think that's all that weird. I get the memes, but don't knock until you try it is what I'm saying.
Light to the Max says, plagues will continue until they're free. Quest Fanning says, I was going to sell Rachel a hammock, but there are too many choices. Life to the Max says, they tried to make the microchips seem too crazy to desensitize you to the idea, and then they just do the microchips anyway. And also chemicals in the water and frickin' frog ski and stuff like that.
I used to drink a lot of tap water as a kid, and look at me now.
Katie Zed says, sometime in the summer they're having a memorial for my friend Kent that passed, so once I find what that is, I'll know when I'll be... Okay, so that's more making the plans in the live chat, because Katie Zed's going to be coming up here. Life to the Max says, my brother's catalytic converter got stolen, and then a whole fleet of cable vans got theirs stolen nearby. I'll tell you off
cable
mic.
Can't catch a break. Yeah. Stealing cable and their catalytic converters?
I've got a story for you about something else that got stolen, but it'll dox me, so I'm not going to say it on camera. So once we're off here, I'll tell you about what happened there.
All right, fair enough.
Quest says, for what if the price of tea and slice the old man died? Back to the Future 2 and 3 were filmed at the same time.
Or were they? Ooh.
They liked the Bernie impression. They definitely did. Life to the Max says, the mouth shape and the very unfair.
Very unfair.
I've been doing the Chuck Schumer impression lately. Well, we got to make sure when I come back to the Senate that we're going to make sure that we get the Build Back Better done, okay?
Chuck Schumer was at my college graduation, and he wasn't a speaker. It was really weird. He was on the stage, and then we're like, oh, he must be the keynote guy, but it was somebody else. It was very odd. I went to school in New York City, so I mean, he was from the area. But...
Quest says, in all fairness, Ed omitted the context of my repeal of the 19th comment. Life and KT were not sounding like good voters, missing half the show. And Fanning will get the last comment here of the night that says, Franny loved the crickets used in our sacade at the Four Seasons in Mexico City.
There you go. See?
And with that, we are out of live chat, and I think it's time to come back out and close the show. Let's throw a little bit of music up here as we go through and sell the wares and make sure everybody can find all the rest of us. So, thank you everybody who came by and checked out the live chat, the live show, or checked us back on demand. If you are just catching up now, you want to go back and check us back out from the beginning, you can go and find us over on YouTube and over on BitChute.com, on the audio platforms, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher. You can find us in all those places, so go check us out there. I will be back here tomorrow morning, 7:15 a.m. Central Time, for more contemporary. So come back and join me for the live chat. I know it's early, but we have a lot of fun in the live chat there, so come back and hang out with us over there. Otherwise, if you want to go continue the conversation, either on Twitter or the next podcast appearance for my guest, Rachel, tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at RachelX_13. That's RACHILLAX_13. You can find me on Facebook if you're friends with me. If we've ever met, probably not going to add it. But most importantly, you can find our cause at medicalfreedomla.com. Please help us out.
And also a special thanks to Britt from the Freckles and Britt Show as well for coming in here just long enough to give all of the big meat puns that were out there. That was, that was the point we lost control of the show, but it was definitely hilarious, and I'm glad to see that as well. So we are going to head out of here for the night. Thank you everybody once again for coming by. And as I always say, in words of wisdom, never take the words of bloggers, podcasters, or journalists as gospel. Find all the facts and draw your own conclusions. Rachel, lead the people out with some last words of wisdom.
Well, as I always say, never let a fish operate your cash register.
Take care, everyone.